Have you been seriously injured? Mama Justice is here for you. Our medical team partners with top-notch doctors, surgeons, therapists, and urologists, ensuring a comprehensive recovery journey. While our legal team, proven in securing million-dollar settlements, will fight fiercely on your behalf. With Mama Justice, you aren't just a client, you're family. Lean on us for both your healing and your rights. If you've been injured, call Mama Justice today. We're here for you.
Now it's Daniel Sparks. He's a state senator who represents District 5, includes Itawamba, Prentiss, and Tishomingo counties. Is that still the case, Senator?
Yes, sir.
Just want to make sure. Up there in northeast Mississippi and Appalachia, as I sometimes refer to it. Beautiful part of our state.
It's also known as the region of the state that for about a week moves to Jackson this time of year to play basketball in the big house.
That is true.
New Site was playing this morning. Belmont plays later today. Tisch County played yesterday. Boonville plays. I mean, we are so blessed to have. It's not just the athletes. That's not the issue to me. It's those communities and the representation of their communities and the quality of student and citizen they are, and their parents were here playing in that role years ago. It is a sense of pride for Hill Country, and of course, even outside of my district, you keep walking across North Mississippi, and a lot of small schools coming down and representing their part of the state. So it tickles me to get to go over to the Coliseum and watch them play.
I've actually done radio for that event over there in the days when I used to do play-by-play on high school sports. That's always a great event, though. Do a fantastic job. All right, so you guys might as well go home now. You got no bills to talk about. Not too many made it out of committee. I'm going to start with our favorite subject, something you and I talk about a lot offline, and that's the public employees retirement system. I can't find a bill that survived. What did at this point, if anything?
I would say the most disappointing day in the 7 years that I've been there was yesterday. Okay. And there have been years we've had policy disagreements. We've had an idea on a particular subject matter that, one end of the hall would think we ought to do it this way, the other end would think we do it the other way. The sad thing about yesterday, there's three major things that I want to talk about. The first of which is one we've talked about recently, and I'll be glad to go as in-depth as you want to on PERS. But the SNAP error rate, you and I have talked about, that's a $128 million loss to the state of Mississippi that will be penalized. And Senate Bill 2765 yesterday died without being brought up for a vote. It was just the code sections. So that's $128 million. Then Senate Bill 2746 and 49 address new rules coming from the federal government for the Department of Human Services for elder care type of services. That's another $30 million. Yep. So that's $158 million, Gerard. We might as well pushed in the center of the Capitol and lit it on fire. So it was comical to me when one of my colleagues from the other end of the hall sent me a text kind of immediately after committees didn't even meet and wanted to talk about a project bill. There's your project bill, $158 million. That'd be a great project bill. And we just torched it yesterday. So, hey, by the way, teacher pay bill from the Senate side was about $163, $168. So there's your teacher pay bill. We have $7.4 billion in revenues, $7.1 in expenses, and Medicaid needs $300. We have to be serious about math. We have to be serious about accountability, and there's always differences of agreement on policy or different things that are going on, but math is not policy. Math is finite, it is concrete, it is certain, and when I think I can roll bills out that make a good Facebook post for me, but don't make good math, and they're never going to get across the finish line, we're not serious. So the PERS piece, I'm very appreciative.
Before you go there, this SNAP, because I want our audience to understand what's going on there, why this is a problem that just suddenly became a problem. And it has to do with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that passed last year that actually does, for the first time ever, require states to pick up some of the benefits. States have always had kind of a split cost sharing of the administration of the program, 75-25, 75 for the Fed, 25 state. That got changed to 50-50.
That's right.
So that already increased the state's costs to administer the program. But the Fed said, okay, states, based on your error rate, you're going to have to kick in some money from the state funds to cover the cost of the program itself, the benefits themselves, based on the error rate. I think 4 categories, like 6% up to 10%, some ranges in between that. And we're like in the third highest, as I recall.
Well, yeah, we were at 10.69, which would have been $128 million penalty, as I understood it. And then there were people going, gosh, we can get it down to just $40 million. We operate in a state where if $40 million is nothing to you, then you don't need to be in charge of the pen that writes checks.
Oh, man.
So the frustrating piece is the code sections were brought forward, and what this is actual leadership. This is actually paying attention to what the federal government is doing, being in tune to that, being awake during the summer, actually paying attention to the job when you're outside of the legislative session. And that was brought to my attention by some agency people. Hey, well, no problem, we'll fix that. So we bring the bill forward, and it died yesterday without a vote. It was simply the code sections. If there was
so
some
let's explain
concern.
it. You were just pulling the code sections pertaining to the SNAP program. Is that right?
That's correct.
Forward, so you guys could talk about it, what to do.
That's right. And I've talked directly with the governor's office to say we will amend from being a change reporting state to a simplified reporting state. We're the only one out of 50, by the way, who's still change reporting. And I said, unless y'all give me a pathway, like show me a better way, because the 2017 legislation that was the HOPE Act that started all of this was intended to be transparent. Here's the thing that people have to realize. What happened in 2017 may not be pertinent today. Like what they did in 17, that's great, good work. Thank y'all for what you did. But to lead, you actually have to be nimble and pay attention. This federal administration, this presidential administration, they're serious about fraud. They're serious about transparency. And we as a state ought to be. And this is in response to what they're doing. So I would argue it's a continuation of the HOPE Act using technology that's available to us today that wasn't available in 2017. Because at the end of the day, we don't want people getting benefits that are not entitled to those benefits. But $128 million to just throw it away it's irresponsible.
So first thing I'd say is applaud. You know how I feel about the use of technology is really the only way to address this problem. Can't hire an army of people.
That's right.
It ain't possible, and they can't still get the job done. Second thing is explain to the folks this change reporting versus the proactive type investigative reporting for eligibility we're talking about.
That's right.
Here.
And when somebody comes in and signs up for SNAP to see if they're eligible, they look at several items, including your income, your assets, just to see if you qualify. So do we take you at your word? You just fill out a piece of paper? How are we going to back check that? So you need a third party that can actually go in and do those things, to look at bank statements, to look at W-2s, to look at your employer. So that is an ongoing process, because I could be eligible today, and then when I'm reevaluated in 6 months, I'm graded on what happened in 6 months. When you are a change reporting state like we are, any change in revenue within 10 days, you're supposed to report that to DHS, and that's on the citizen. So somebody that works,
it's the honor system essentially.
Which
is a joke.
It is, and so because we're a change reporting state, when we reauthorize somebody at 6 months, we look back of the prior 6 months to see if there's any variation, and then we self-report to the federal government. Nobody else is doing this. The truth is, you check eligibility at application. Then you go out 6 months and you reauthorize, and maybe you look back the prior 30 days. But the other thing, and working with Representative Clay DeWeese has really been working on this very hard, and we're both disappointed. But Representative DeWeese is working on legislation that allows us to get that third-party vendor who is technology-driven, who will do constant monitoring. Like, it may red flag, hey, Daniel Sparks is qualified. So you've got at application, you've got 6 months later, and then now through technology, we could actually monitor on a regular basis to see if I am not producing proper documentation. So it is very much transparent. It is more transparent, but we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. And again, $30 million DHS, it was a change in federal law. All we needed to do was apply state law to coincide with federal law. That's another $30 million. $158 million. That is ridiculous to throw that away yesterday with no policy disagreement.
Yeah, that's very disappointing. I think the people of Mississippi would agree with you on that. We're talking to State Senator Daniel Sparks in the Element Well studio. We're going to come back and find out what else is going on or not going on down there at the state capitol. Stay with us. So we're back with you in the Element Wealth studio, visiting with Senator Daniel Sparks. So a typical example, as you know, of how we could end the SNAP program, be paying out benefits when we shouldn't be, is if somebody who is looking for work, unemployed, because if they're searching for work, they qualify, and then they get employment, now they're generating income, they no longer qualify because their income exceeds the cap to qualify for benefits. That's an example. Or they get a promotion or a new job. All the above. The bottom line is, unless we're continuously monitoring that, rather than waiting for them to tell us, the recipients to tell us, which is the way it works now, the benefits keep going out.
That's right. And basically, we're waiting for the beneficiaries to tell us, and then every 6 months when we check the books, we go back for that full 6 months, and if we see any rise or fall, and it could be as much as someone working in the service industry that had a good month or a good week, and it's over or under. It's not like all of these errors are actually, that person shouldn't have had benefits. It's literally both ways. But the fact is, 49 other states calculated a different way, and we are giving ourselves an added degree of difficulty. We had legislation to fix that and to avoid that problem, and we just didn't get it done. And again, none of these have been pushed back, as sometimes happens. Hey, I don't like that policy. I don't like that issue. I'll give Chairman Zuber credit. He met with me at least twice, and we've had numerous conversations about the PERS package of bills that the Senate had passed. There were 6 bills. These are bills that the first responder community wanted desperately, that statewide people wanted desperately, that the PERS board wanted. The first one, as you well know, is a funding bill, $1 billion over 10 years. Now, they could have sliced it, diced it, sent their own bill, done it a different way. There's no problem with that, but there needs to be some funding. We also addressed the issue with COLA in pre-funding a Tier 5 COLA, because the misconception that there was no COLA in Tier 5. So we took care of that. But maybe the 2 most important bills, in the sense of the feedback I was getting from PERS community, is specifically in the first responder community. One was cutting the number of years from 35 to 30 for unreduced retirement. Met with the actuaries, got that done. All of these were clean bills, Gerard. This is not like the federal government omnibus bill, throw junk in there. All these were clean, one-subject bills. And the second one was the return to work policy you and I talked about, and the first responders desperately need that. We need that in state government. We could hire experience back, and this also avoids the issue of people contracting around state employment and contracting around PERS. And then the other 2 bills were PERS requested bills. One has to do with the Roth catch-up provision, and the other one with the net pension liability. But in all fairness, no one has said one negative thing, and I'm talking about voting legislators, about could you tweak this to your bill, could you do this to your bill. It was, I think, universally accepted that they were all sound policy. Nobody came to me and said, hey, if you'll change this, I would be in support. And no one said I'm not in support of it. But the interesting thing is the commentary around PERS bills is that there are people who are claiming they're going to fix it, F-I-X, fix it. If you don't understand how something works, it's hard to fix it. If these lights go out in this studio, Gerard, if I say I'm going to fix it, it means I got one trick up my sleeve. I'm going to go flip that switch on. And if they don't come on, I'm done. So the people who keep using the term fix that are legislators, I would welcome them to your show to have a roundtable discussion about how PERS operates on the math and on the law. And I'd love to hear them defend their fix, because I'll be glad to defend mine. But those 6 bills were done in a multitude of work with the first responder community, with retirement associations, with the PERS board, with my colleagues. And I want to thank Senator Josh Harkins and the Lieutenant Governor for helping me get those 6 bills through the Senate this year. Most of them had a 52-0 vote.
Yep.
They were 6 independent bills, and they spent at least 2 to 3 weeks on the other end of the hall. And yesterday, the committee meeting was scheduled for 3 o'clock, and I'm hopeful, because they were double referred. I had to get to a second committee, so I was getting ready to go to the second committee chairman, and around 2:30, 2:45, it was announced that that particular committee would not meet And so they died, not under debate, not under duress. They just died. So that's where we stand. I'm not proud of it. There's no participation trophies, and if there was, we wouldn't even deserve that this year.
I don't see any that passed that related to PERS, right? The return to work, that didn't make it.
No, sir.
The adjustments to the number of years required to retire with full retirement, that didn't make it either in Tier 5, right?
No, sir.
That didn't make it. The funding bills didn't make it.
No, sir.
5 or 6 of them that I looked up, we talked about before. So what are you hearing from the PERS board and the PERS members that are watching this and concerned?
I spoke to several of the folks in the first responder community, particularly, and an individual kind of that works with the PERS board. And the person from the PERS board asked me what happened. And this was at 4:30, 5 o'clock yesterday. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't know. I can tell you legally what happened. The bills were double referred. There was no communication from the other end other than there was a 3 o'clock meeting scheduled. The chairman, as is his right, canceled his meeting. All 6 of my bills were in that committee, and therefore they died because the committee did not meet to vote. And again, I want to stress how much I appreciate so many of the people in the House and the Senate for sitting down and spending hour after hour with me talking through these bills. It's why most of them had a 52-0 vote, is that we'd run the traps. We had said, hey, if you have any suggestions. And so I cannot answer that question. I told the guy from PERS yesterday, and then I was talking with some of my first responder community last night. This is a public safety issue with being able to hire back experienced people. MDEQ, the auditor's office, you go down the line, the AG's office, we could hire back people who have institutional knowledge. Public works at your small cities, in your counties. This is actually a cash flow positive issue to PERS. So for everybody that keeps talking about a steady revenue stream to PERS, return to work actually would deliver that. It was a two-edged benefit. And it's difficult. It's difficult because I know I can drop all 5 of those bills next year, and they're all 6 of them. And the truth is, people can hopefully hire in with the understanding that the goal of the legislature is to move this thing back to 30 years. And if you come in, get hired today, and we make it retroactive, then that's no problem. So it's not like I got my lip pooched out because I didn't get my way. This was a package of bills that really carried us to where we needed to go with the PERS discussion, with funding, with reform, all the things we promised. And I will say this, the Senate delivered everything we promised and then some, with what I have said to the PERS community, that I told them when we have reform, we will bring funding, we will bring all these things. And I'm disappointed, but I'm not giving up.
Okay, so as it stands today, March 1st is passed, and that is the date in accordance with the Tier 5.
That's correct.
That went into effect as it was enacted, that anybody hired in the public sector in the state of Mississippi would be under Tier 5. That means
correct.
If a first responder is hired, they would have to work 35 years to qualify for a full retirement.
For unreduced, that's right. To retire at any age.
Retire at any age, I should say. That's
Yep.
right. Yes, that's different than the calculation of full retirement. To retire at any age.
Right.
So that's where we are right now, and you had legislation that would have revised that, and you heard, as did us and a lot of other folks across the state, heard from the first responder community that expressed deep concerns about that, their ability to recruit, maintain people on that basis. And so you responded to that, but unfortunately we don't have any legislation.
And there's something
this year at least.
Well, there's something that's happened the 6 years prior that I've been here that I think makes us sloppy as legislators, and that's something called a rule suspension. So, we could go and suspend the rules on both ends with the 3/5 vote, I believe is 2/3 vote, that we could suspend the rules, and then we could change the deadlines, and we could bring these bills back. And we did that for the first 6 years I was here, and I think it allowed us to fuss too much between the two chambers because we were always like, we could go back and just suspend the rules. Well, based on the special elections last year, the Senate lost a supermajority. So we do not have, on a party line vote, the ability to suspend the rules. And I did share this with my colleagues as I said, look,
That's right.
this back and forth, is not going to be able to be solved by an easy rule suspension. You will end up with what you get the federal government is somebody will barter possibly for a rule suspension vote, but it is possible that this could happen this year. But I can tell you the SNAP benefits, $128 million, $30 million loss for elder care with DHS, not to mention the other things we're dealing with. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's not good.
Well, we'll see what happens from here at this point, I guess, huh?
I'm always hopeful.
Of course, yeah. We'll see what happens. Maybe the leadership can get together and chart a course forward to get some of this stuff done that I think people in Mississippi want to see get done.
And I think they should expect it to be done.
I agree. Senator Daniel Sparks, I always appreciate you coming in, sir. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Gerard.
We're stepping aside for a break.